A good night of Shabbos to us here in New York and my dear brother-in-law in Jerusalem, in Rechavia, not just Stam Yerushalayim, Rechavia. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Yud Aleph, very interesting Gemara. Not as interesting as talking cows, but nonetheless interesting. Says the Mishnah. Mazgulay esakos. Again, mezigas akos means they would dilute it, the 3 parts to 1. It was the wine was very powerful. So they would mazgul esakos, va'ama hareini nazar mimenu. So you pour the kais and you say, I'm a nazar from it, from the kais. So mashma you be makabel nazir is only on the kos. How you say nazar? Nonetheless, you will be a nazar. How you say nazar? You'll be a nazar. Maisa be'isha achas. There was an incident with a certain woman. Shaisa shikoira. She was inebriated. Umazgale esakos, and they diluted the kais to her. Va'amru, and she said, hareini nazira mimenu. I'm a nazir from it. So amru chachamim. The Chachamim say, "Leiniskav nazu elalaymar harihu alay carbon," and the miskavin only to say on this is a carbon. In other words, she'd only be usher on the kais; she would not be a nazir, which again is problematic. Always, when the Mishnah brings a maisa, an incident, it's to support the statement just previously made. You're not going to bring an incident that would contradict the psak. So if you're telling me that you made a nazir from this kais, you're a full-fledged nazir, why do you bring a maisa with a nazir, a woman who's only usher on the kais? Right? You're making that woman is only usher on the kais. Okay? So exactly what this is what the subject of the Gemara is. Says the Gemara, maisa listar, you're bringing a maisa to go ahead and contradict your psak, and now the Gemara, usually in the Bavli, in a normal Bavli, you would stop, but since the Naziris, similar to Nadarim, is Mishuna, the Gemara speaks it out. Amr Reisha, Haris a Nazir. You say in the Reisha, if you make a Nazir from a cup of wine, you're a full-fledged Nazir. And then you tell me a Maisa with a woman that's only usher on the what? On the cup and not a full-fledged Nazira? Alma, Bahaihu the Asa, and this is Asa. Hayena Achrina, but any other cup of wine, Shari, you be Mutta. So the Gemara wants to know why the Mishnah brings a incident that goes ahead and contradicts the Psak. And for the Gemara, the Mishnah is missing words. In other words, we'll insert words and everything will become clear. It's missing words, and here's the way you have to learn it. Masgulo esakois, if you go ahead and dilute the kois, va'ama hareini nazar mimenu, Nazir, and no one disagrees with that. That's clear cut. However, them shikarhu, and if you're drunk, va'amar and say, hareini nazir mimenu, I'm a nazir from it, then ain't a nazir. Then you're not a nazir. If you're drunk and you say, I'm not drinking this cup, then you would not be a nazir. You'd only be usher on the cup. My timer, kimanda ama harei alai carbon who. It's as if you said that this cup is usher upon me like a carbon. So if that's the case, if you're drunk, go ahead and say so. Savar masina le'achrina u'mitzareli. Okay, what's the underlying thing over here? Is human nature. If you look at Tosfos, guys, the third Tosfos down. Vim shikahu havikoima harei alai carbon. Pirish shederech bnei adam. Lahavtze b'shika, it's a derech bnei adam to urge a shika, sheyishta, to drink. In other words, it's a very strange thing, fellas, right? When you see a person drunk, what do? You offer him another drink. Harry, you have a pirish on this? Okay, but Maisa, you agree with Taisus full-fledged, right? You know, it just seems to be the style. Once you get a guy going, everyone's smiling when they hear the truth, right? You get a guy going, you keep on giving him to drink. So this person decided I have enough. So what did the person say? I'm a Nazir, and therefore I can't drink this cup. Fred the Gemara, so really what you meant was, I don't want to be a Nazir. I just don't want to drink this cup because I don't want them giving me more and more and more and more. So Fred the Gemara, so if so, that's what you meant. Why say the lashon of Nazira or Nazir? Why don't you go ahead and say what? I just usher on the cup. And the answer is savar my sinale achrina umitzayerli. In other words, if I say I'm usher on the cup, they'll say, "Oh, this cup you're usher on. I'll bring you another cup, right?" So Memela, when you say you're a Nazir, Memela, that'll take care of everything. But you didn't read him Kabbalah Naziris. Now, says the Gemara, so Emalahu Milsa, I'll say something, the psikalahu, that will stop them from what? From bringing the wine. Umaisanami be'isha achas, and there's a Maisanami with what? With this woman, and now the Maisa exactly supports the psak that's missing, the missing psak of the shikar. When you're shikar, einachinami, you're not a Nazir, all you simply want to do is stop the people from bringing wine. So I'll ask you a kasha, guys. If she's usher on the cup, correct? Would you think a shikar's neder is a good neder? So why is she even usher on the cup? Good? You had a kasha? Okay, so listen to the lashon of the Rambam. The Rambam is in Perek Aleph from Hilchas Naziris in Halacha Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Mazgu loy koshel yayin, v'nasnu loy lishtois, v'amar reini nazir mimenu. How he said nazir? Nazir gomer. He's a complete nazir. V'imhoya mar nefesh. If the person was bitter, oy koyas or angry, oy misabel or mourning, v'oy mivaksh mimenu sheyishta, and they wanted to give him to drink in order to make his spirits go up. Excuse the pun, right? He wanted to go ahead and raise his spirits. And he decides he wants to remain in the dumps. Then if he goes ahead and makes a neder, it's only of Naziris, it's only keneged that cup, because he really doesn't want to be a Nazir. All his kavanah was not to drink this cup. It's so too similar to a person who is going away from this cup and said Nazir, a shikar that you give a cup of wine in order to inebriate him more. Hari said Nazir mi menu. Hari said vad, like our Mishnah, like the Maisa, the Ein Chayev bin Naziris. Because he didn't want to drink too much. So this, however, listen to the Rambam. However, if you read the state of the shikuras of light's level in inebriation, that you didn't even know that you were living with your daughters, ein devar of klum, then his words are nothing. Ve'ein chayev al kol aveir sheyasa. He's not chayev on any aveir that he does. Shemishtagei l'shikra shaloit ein ben chayev. A person who reaches the level of light is not a person of what who is a bandas. He's not a bandas. So when we speak about a shikr over here, we're speaking about a person whose level of shikris is, you know what? I could still drive. I could still drive. Then you reach the level of a person, there's no way in the world you're listening to that guy. You would be chayiv if you let the guy go behind the wheel, because he is shikah v'light. He's shikah v'light. So I'll tell you two things. One I heard from Bornstein and one is my own. Bornstein said, Rabbi Bornstein said very geschmack, guys. He quoted the Rebbe of the Rabbi Yomi Nazir. I think Rabbi Moshe or Rabbi something or other. I don't remember the name. It's to my shul. My bar mitzvah pasha is Pashas Toldos. We know that Esav sold the Bechara to Yaakov. Vayome Yaakov says to Esav, Yishav ali, swear to me kayim. Vayishav aloi, vayimches Becharos Yaakov, and he sold his mechira Yaakov. Guys, this is wonderful pshat. Yaakov nasan leEsav lechem zirad. Yaakov gave to Esav bread, lentils. Vayochal, he ate. Vayesh, and he drank. Vayokam, vayelach, and he got up and he went. Vayivez Esav b'chayra, and he was mevaza. He went ahead and was mevaza the b'chayra. The Rebbe of Yomi Nazir, why does it have to say vayokam vayelach? Just say that he ate and he drank and he sold in the b'chayra. And the answer is, if he would have drank to the level of light, then the sale wouldn't have been a good sale. Yaakov wanted to make sure that he wasn't so shikra. So by Yokam Vayelach, he had to go out, get up and walk. That would ascertain that that his shikras was the level of a business transaction being a transaction rather than that level wide of light. The next thing is wonderful. This I saw from the Torah Das, my Chavatov, Ramatas Zatzal, from a Maisa with a person named Avram Paskvila. He's quoted by the Chafetz Chaim in Mishnah Berurah, Avram Paskvila. Listen to what he says. Great story, guys. Who is the first shik in the Torah? Lot? No, it's not true. The first shik in the Torah was Noach, right? After Noach's in the Teva, right? Noach, right? The first thing he did, Vayites HaKoren, he's lying in a state of undress, and that brought the whole incident of Chum and the klala given to Canaan. So why do we say shik of Elot and why do we say shik of Noach? That's the kasha. Maisa happened. The guy came from Eretz Yisrael. He had daughters to marry off, and he went to Rav Paskvila that he should give him what? He should give him money. So money, I don't know, he had money, didn't have money. So he said to him, give me a hamlatza. Hamlatza is a letter that I can collect funds. So he went out. Avram Paskvila would go ahead and give him a letter. Can you imagine? You go around a letter from a gadol. It's helpful. He'll show it to other people. They're able to make money. Anyway, the guy goes to an inn. He goes to an inn, gets drunk as a skunk. He's lying in the street, and what's there next to him is the hamlatza from Avram Paskvila. Anyway, people said, this is the person that he is giving a hamlatza to go ahead and raise money. They took it. He wakes up, sobers up, and realizes, 1 second, I don't have this hamlatza. Goes, no problem, I'll go back to him. So the people had meanwhile go to Avram Paskvila, and they said, they give him the hamlatza, and they said, look, this is the person you gave it to? Anyway, the person shows up, and he says, listen, I lost it. Can you write me another one? So Avram Paskvila stood up for him. He goes, why are you standing up for me? He goes, you're my Rebbe. He goes, how are you my Rebbe? So he goes, you taught me something. He goes, what? He goes, I always wondering, like, why do you say Shikavi light? Why do you say Shikavi Noach? And the answer is, Noach had no daughters. So he could get drunk. Hashem came you who have daughters. Isn't that a great story? It's a great ma'isa. He goes, I said this over my sister Sheva Brachas when she married off her last child. She had 7 daughters, married off the 7th one. I said, hey, Sim, go ahead and drink up. Now you can drink, no problem. Okay, anyway. Says the Mishnah. Hareini Nazir al menas she'eh shoyse yayin u'metamal mesim. 3 cases, guys. I'm a Nazir on the condition that I'll drink wine and I'll be metamal mesim. In other words, we know there's 3 things the Nazir can't do. He can't drink wine, or any grape extract, can't cut his hair, and can't be metamal mesim. So he is going ahead and saying that I will go ahead and I won't drink wine, I won't be metamal mesim. How he said Nazir, he said Nazir for asa bekulon, and he's asa in all of them. In other words, he's a full-fledged Nazir. Over here, he's a full-fledged Nazir. Now, we had a machlokes earlier in the Masechta, early on, between the Chacham and Rabbi Yehud and Rabbi Shimon. The Chacham said, if he went ahead and said, I am a Nazir mechartzanim, from the grape seeds, or I'm a Nazir from the zagen, from the skins, he's a full-fledged Nazir. And Rabbi Shimon said, no, Nazir atzmi kulon. So apparently over here, l'chari should say, this is not according to Rabbi Shimon. Okay. Simcha, I'm in the middle of saying shir. Let me just give you a hint, okay? Simcha l'kim t'afayim menacha, yivrecha ne'vishmecha, derech ne'pla v'lech v'necha, yis ne'pla v'yasim tashlim. Have a great Shabbos. I'm in the middle of shir. Okay. Anyway, everyone knows it's a Friday. So even Reb Shimon would be masking over here, guys. This is a goes ahead and says something and makes a condition that goes against the Torah. Then we go ahead and totally go ahead and discount the Tanai. We discount it. So therefore, in this case, he says, I'm a Nazir. So he is, on the condition that what? I don't drink wine, I don't do that. We totally discount that. It's masna mashakasa b'Torah and Tanai bottle. And therefore, he'll be a full-fledged Nazir. Your second case, I know there's such a thing as Naziris. I don't know. Shenazir asa biyayin. In other words, he makes a neder that he's unaware of something. So in other words, he was only makabel part of the naziris. He was only makabel the mason part or the here part, but he wasn't makabel the yayin part. Asa. This is the chachamim l'shita sehem, guys. If a guy goes ahead and makes a neder either from a zag or a chartzin, it's enough. As long as you make partial of the naziris, you're a nazir. Reb Shimon matir. Reb Shimon on the other hand says no. Since you only were makabel naziris from here and from mason, but not from yayin, that's not yasami kulan. You weren't a nazir from everything. Again, going back to the sugyan daf gimel. So Reb Shimon goes l'shita saslai. Since you weren't a nazir from all of them, then you're mutter. So what's the difference in this case and the first case? In the first case, he knew the halacha. He just went ahead and said that what? I don't want the halacha to apply. Over here, he doesn't know the halacha. So in the first case, we're going to see in the Gemara a machlokes whether Rav Shimon disagrees in the first case or not, and we're going to see that we paskin that he agrees in the first case. Okay, so that's the second case. The second case is he makes a neder, but he doesn't know. The third case, guys, is he does know, but he thinks he has a tinus oinus. I know a nazir's asabiyayin. I'm of the opinion that the chachamim, they will go ahead and they would matter me if they she'ein ani yachal l'chayis. This guy is an addict. He's an addict and he can't live without wine. So he says, I'm a kabbalah naziris. However, what's the law? He has a job. He's a gravedigger. He is the undertaker of WWE fame, and he says, "Listen, I got a job. I got to do this, right? I have no choice. So I'm an einus. So here's a mutter." Says the chachamim, he's mutter. He's not a nazir. The Shimon Eiser, and if Shimon says no, he's usher. He would be a nazir, which apparently is contradictory to the case number 2. The chachamim are of the opinion that if you make yourself a nazir, not from all 3 aspects, only 1 or 2 of them, you're a nazir. Reb Shimon says, no, you're not a nazir. Now in this last case, the chacham is saying, you're right, you're not a nazir, and Reb Shimon is saying, yes, you are a nazir. Apparently it will be what? Contradictory. Just give me. So again, 3 cases. The first one, he goes ahead and says, I'm a kabbalah naziris, I'll manas that I'll be able to drink wine. The second case, he's makabel naziris, not knowing whether he's able to drink wine or not. The chacham say he will be a nazir, and Shimon says he's not. The third case, he knows that he's what he's not allowed to drink wine, but he figures he'll get off the hook, and the chacham let him off the hook, and if Shimon does not let him off the hook. Says the Gemara, the lifluk nami Reb Shimon bereisha. Reb Shimon only argued in the latter 2 cases. He did not argue in the case where he's makabel naziris on manas that he can drink wine. So Reb Shimon Levi chalak Reb Shimon apareisha. Reb Shimon also argues in the reisha. You're right. In other words, when it's said in the second case, Reb Shimon matir, it's going back on the first case as well. Reb Shimon would argue and say in that case where he makes a neder that I'm a nazir, I'm manas not to drink wine, that he would not be a nazir. Ravina says no, but Reisha like Polig Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon agrees with the Reisha. My timer, Mishum that the Havile Masnal Mashakasa B'Torah, when he said I'll be a Nazir except I'll be able to drink wine, he is going against what the Torah describes a Nazir as. So what's our rule of thumb? Anyone who makes a condition that goes against the Torah, Tanoi Batal, the Tanai is Batal, and the key word Umaisa Kayim. The Tanoi is Batal, but his Maisa is Kayim. The Maisa that he would be a Nazir would be Kayim. Says Ravina, therefore Rav Shimon agrees with the Chacham in case number 1, despite disagreeing in case number 2 and case number 3. Now, Rabbi Shua Levi Amar, Rabbi Shua Levi says he argues there. Amalach, Hai Almanas, this Tanai is Kichutz Dami. This Almanas is like a chutz, says Taisvis. Hai Almanas Kichutz Dami. Ki Ilu Amar, as if he said, Hareini Nazar Mikol Milsa. I'm a nazir from every single aspect of Naziris, chutz min hayayin, with the exception of wine. The loy havi nazir Reb Shimon, the beinin achiyida mikulon. In other words, Rabbi Shua ben Levi touches up his condition not as a condition, but as an exception. I'm making a neder of Naziris except from wine. So what did Rabbi Shimon say in Daf Gimel? I'm making a Naziris, right, only from skins, but not from mason. So if you touch up almanas as chutz, not a condition, but as an exception, then it would fall into the machlokes earlier that Rabbi Shimon said. So therefore, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, who touches almanas as chutz, has Rabbi Shimon not going ahead and being makabel all three aspects of Naziris. Thus, he would argue and say, you're not a Nazir. As opposed to Ravinu, who says, no, we touch almanas as a condition. If it's a condition that goes against the Torah, it's not a condition, umay sakayim. Tanya Kabasi de Ravina, we have a brisa that would support Ravina. Oma Hareini Nazir Almanas, Shaisayayin, Umitamal Mesim, I'm a Nazir Almanas, that I can drink wine. I mean, Mitamal Mesim, Harizen Nazir, he is a Nazir, Vasa Bekulon. You know why? Neshu Masnal Mashakasa B'Torah. Tonight, bottle. Rav Shimon does not disagree in this brisa, so we have a brisa that substantiates the Amoyres Ravina's pshat in our Mishnah. Next case, Yodei Anish Hanazir Asa B'Yayin. I know that a Nazir is Asa B'Yayin, right? That, in other words, this is case number 3. Case number 2 is the Dava Pashat, guys, right? Case number 2 is, I didn't know it's Asa from Yayin, so I only was accepted Naziris. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon says, you're not a Nazir, you need to accept all of it. The Chacham said, as long as you accept part of it, you are a Nazir. So that case number 2 was not even discussed. We're discussing case number 3. Case number 3. I know that a Nazir is Asa B'Yayin. Good. However, I thought the Chachamim will let me off the hook. Read the Gemara of Amit Reisha Asa Reb Shimon Matir. What's the difference in case number 3, where the Chachamim are Mekel and the Chachamim are Mekel and Reb Shimon is Machmir, and case number 2, Reb Shimon is Mekel and the Chachamim are Machmir? Says the Gemara, Eimanami Harisa Asa Reb Shimon Mata. Okay, so in other words, switch around the Seifa. Case number 3, let's switch around similar to case number 2. Just like in case number 2, the Chachamim said, you're a Nazir, and Rav Shimon said, you're not. Who I did in case number 3, the Chachamim said, you're a Nazir, and Rav Shimon would say, you're not. You don't have to switch it around. The Chachamim will be make a Machmir, and Rav Shimon will be Mekel in the opposite. The Chacham will be Mekel and Shimon will be Machmer. In case number 3, Rav Shimon will have you as a Nazir and the Chachamim won't. Loilam emelach loy tepa. Hasam amideis. Hasam reisha kigain. The Nazir mechada. He became what? A Nazir from one of them. Okay, meaning he said I'm a Nazir I'm a Nazir either from Mesim or I'm a Nazir from wine, but not all of them. L'Rabbanan the army afilu loy Nazir ela me'achas mehen having Nazir v'asa Rav Shimon the Ama Achi Yazim Mikulan Muta. Okay, that's case number 2. Seifa the Neder Mikula. The Seifa is speaking what? He made a neder, full-fledged neder across the board. The Itchel, and then he was shoyel mechada from one of them. So guys, he said the following: I'm a Nazir. Now he says I'm taking off one of them. I'm shoyel on the yayin part. I'm not shoyel on the haircut part. I'm not shoyel on the mason part. I'm shoyel on the yayin part. So I was a full-fledged Nazir, and I'm taking it off. I take off one of them. L'Rabbanon the Amri afilu leNazir ela me'achas mehem abi Nazir ki mitchel mechad minayu ishteri. So therefore, just like you go in, you go out. Just like you can go in if you makabel 1, you get all 3. So too, you take off 1, you take off all. Therefore, the Chacham case number 3, it's muta. What does Rav Shimon say? Rav Shimon says no. When you go ahead and makabel 1, it's nothing. Hu adin, when you take off 1, it's nothing, and you still remain in your Naziris. So therefore, Rav Shimon would be machmir. So therefore, Rav Shimon the Ama Achiyida Mikulam Ki Mitchell Nami Me'ahu Ad Mitchell Mikula. Until you take off all of them, Shem Hachi Katani Reb Shimon Isa. Reb Shimon asks. Okay, so let's go back to the case number. Go back to the Mishnah for a second. The last case. Yoideya ani shanazir asa b'yayin. I will sabra yisi shechachamim matirim li. I thought the chachamim would let me off the hook. If they shein ani yachal l'chayis ela b'yayin. I'm an addict. I need wine. I'm a grave digger. Harizem muta. What are we speaking about, guys? He was a full-fledged Nazir. Now he says, I need to drink wine, or I need to be with Tamal Mason, and I'm taking off one of them. Says the Chachamim, just like when you went in with one, it would be they take all three. So too, when you take off one, you take off all together, all three. Rav Shimon says, no, if you're a full-fledged Nazir, just like when you take one, it doesn't count. So too, when you take off one, it doesn't count, and you remain in your Naziris. That's the Pshat. So therefore, do not be mahapech. Don't say case number 3 is like Rav Shimon is matir and the Chachamim are machmir. Don't say that. The Chachamim are mekel, Rav Shimon's machmir, and now we have a reason why. Okay, another reason. V'ba Yasema, why Rav Shimon is machmir and the Chachamim are mekel. B'nidrei einsin kam niflgi. They're arguing by nidrei einsin. Okay, we had this Mishnah in Masechta Nedarim. There are 4 Mishnayos. Look to the Shmuel Ravasi. Nan. Abba Nedarim hitiru chachamim. There are 4 Nedarim that you didn't even have to ask a chacham. In other words, you didn't have to go to the chacham to take it off. The chacham automatically took it off. Abba Nedarim hitiru chachamim. Nidrei Zruzin. Those are Nedarim, guys. Remember, you wanted to Mazaris the guy. He said 6. You said 3. You really meant 5. You're sure in the middle. Or 4. Nidrei Havoi. Nidrei Shkogos. Nidrei Einsin. We need Nidrei Einsin. What's the case in Nidrei Einsin? Look at Taisus, or to draw your memory. Nidrei Einsin, Mefarish bin Nedarim daf chav zayin, kigoin she'ediru chaveroi she'yochel etzloi b'yoin ploini. He says the following: I'm making a neder that you have to eat by me on this day, and if you don't eat by me on this day, then my nechasim are us on you. If you don't eat by me on this day, my nechasim are us to you. What happens? An inus happens. He's not able to come. He gets sick. His son gets sick. The river is mafsik. In that case, where the Tanai can't be fulfilled through an einus, you don't even have to go ask a chacham. That's called nidrei einsin. Okay. And now over here, we're saying this is also an honest. The case over here is nidrei einsin as well. The case is speaking. He accepted a naziris, and he says the naziris is chal somewhere in the middle. And as he develops an addiction, or he gets a job, and now it's Kabbalah of Naziris is binus. So therefore, it's the same thing. Machlokes. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Abor Nedarim halalu tzrichin sheila. 4 Nedarim require sheila l'chachamim. Okay, so Rav Asi says he disagrees with the Mishnah. He says that what? He says Rav Asi is an Amayra, but he says these Nedarim do need sheila. So we have machlokes. Ki amisa kamei de Shmuel, what Rav Asi said. Amali Tanakatani Atiru Chachamim, that there is no neder. Va'at Amit Tzricha Sheil Chachamim. Rabbanan Savi Kishmuel. The Rabbanan hold like Shmuel. Since it's nidrei oinis, you don't need sheila. Therefore, your naziris is off. Rav Shimon Kravasi, and Rav Shimon holds like Ravasi that your naziris might be on. Lenny, you might be. I think we have to say goodbye to Lenny from Yerushalayim. I think it might be time to go. Okay. Anyway, he could be gone. There he goes. Lenny, have a great Shabbos, Lenny. Okay. So again, this last case, this is another interpretation for case number 3. This is another interpretation for case number 3, right? Why the Chachamim matter? Because he holds this is a neder of an oinus. Since it's a neder of an oinus, then it's off. Mashenking like Shmuel holds that what? Shmuel holds that what? It's still on, because he holds like Ravasi that neder of an oinus does need sheila, and therefore it's still be on, and therefore what? You'll be a nazir. Okay, the final Mishnah. Harini nazir, I'm a nazir, v'olai legaleach. I am a nazir, and olai legaleach. Now, we know that the nazir, on the day he takes his haircut, brings 3 kabbanis. He brings a male sheep as an oila, a female sheep, or not a sheep, but a sheep as a, see where I'm holding, a female sheep as a chatas, and he brings an ayil, which is a 2-year-old, right? He brings an ayil as a shlomen. Good. When he goes ahead, he takes a haircut, he takes the hair, and he puts it under the pot of the shlomen as it's cooking, and then he's able to drink wine. So when it says tiglachas haircut, what it really means is the day of karbonis. It's synonymous. When it says tiglachas, it means karbonis. So now, hareini nazir v'olai legaleach. I'm Nazir, and he says, and it's upon me to bring for another Nazir his karbanis. That's what he's saying. I'm a Nazir, and upon me to go ahead and bring for another Nazir his karbanis. So the Shama Chaveiroi, and his friend hears, V'amar v'ani v'alai l'geach Nazir, and it's also upon me. He says the same thing. So now you have two guys. One guy's a Nazir and has to bring karbanis for somebody else, and the other guy's a Nazir and has to bring somebody else. So now l'chayr, the guy is out 2 sets of karbanis, one for himself and one from the other fellow. Good. However, if they're smart guys, we can get away with 1 set of karbanis. What will we do? Guys, listen, I got a deal. I'm a Nazir, you're a Nazir. I got to bring from somebody else, you got to bring from somebody else. You're the somebody else, and I'm the somebody else. In other words, you'll bring for me, and I'll bring for you. We took care of our Naziris, and we took care of our Chiyuv to bring for somebody else. That's Kishmak. Vim loy hoyim megalchim, vim lav, kama, megalchim nisar macherim, they're going to have to provide kabbanis for another Nazir. In other words, if they're not bikchim, they can't figure out, they're not rocket scientists, right? They can't figure out this apparently easy way to mekayim both conditions. So that's the Mishnah. Now, in our Mishnah, the guy said 2 things. He said ani, I. He said I, and he said alay l'galeach for somebody else. The guy repeated it and said ani for alay l'galeach. In other words, he mimicked exactly what he said. So says the Gemara, Iboilu, Shama Chaveiroi v'Amar v'ani mahu. And he just said the word ani. So the guy number Ruvain says ani v'alay l'galeach. Shimon says ani. When he says ani, is it going back on both, or is it only going back on one? And if it's going back on one, which one? Here the Shaila. Again, if he mimics exactly what he says, v'alay l'galeach, okay. It's a Laila Galeach, I hear. It's the exact same thing. But he didn't say that. He just said ani, I. So if he says ani, does it mean on both? Or does it mean on one? And if it means on one, which one? Says the Gemara. Iboilu, Shama Chaver Bama Va'ani, Mahu. Va'ani Akula Diburi Mashma, and therefore he would be a Nazir and he would have to be in Korbanos for somebody else. Dilma Apalga Diburi Mashma. It's only one or the other. If you're going to tell me it's mashma only one of them, a reisha is going on the reisha, meaning the guy would be a nazir, but he would not be required to bring karbanos to somebody else. A seifa, or he'd be required to bring karbanos on somebody else, but he would not be a nazir. Pashma, let's be pasha the shaila. The Mishnah says, "Va'ani va'alay legaleach." It's upon me and alay legaleach. Nazir, then he's a nazir. When the Mishnah said he had to say ani v'alai shmamina v'ani apalga de dibura. In other words, when the Mishnah said the only way to mekayim both is when he said 2 words, mashma v'ani would only be one. Amar in apalga de dibura mashma. Okay, I agree. Okay, you're right. When you said v'ani, I agree, you only mekayim one thing. Now, what's the second shaila? Aresha is going back on the I'm a Nazir, or a Seifo, or a Laila Galeach. Is it going on for somebody else? Correct? So I know. The second guy says Vani, he is mechuyev in something. What's he mechuyev in? Is he mechuyev in Kabbal's Naziris on the Resha? Or no, he's mechuyev to bring somebody else, but he would not be a Nazir. Says the Gemara, Mina, let's be patient from the Mishnah. When he said both, Shmamina, Vani, Al Tchilas Dibura Mashma. In other words, let's break it up. You have Ani, V'alayla Galeach. So Alayla Galeach is Mashma, that's the part of bringing a carbon. And Ani is going back on the first part, the Kabbalah's Naziris. Or else, just say Ani, I have any Nazir. Why do you have to say V'alayla Galeach? So Amli Rav Huna, Bereid Rav Yeshua, L'Rava, Mimayda Hachi, Maybe ani is going on everything. In other words, it's upon me everything. In other words, he doesn't mean to go ahead and cut it short. He's speaking the way people speak. Take a look at Taisus. Lo'olam b'ani akula dibur mashma v'im yishum v'alai my ka'amar v'alai b'hachmilsa. It's upon me this matter. Kloimar umasha kibalti kvar naziris tiglachas la'achek. Right, and that I was makabel upon myself naziris, I should be megaleach with somebody else. People, when they talk, they couple their speech. And even if he didn't say valai, the mechayev b'nazir b'tiglachas adibur kama. In other words, just the fact that he said ani does not go ahead and preclude on the whole thing. Maybe it means the whole thing. What's your raya from the Mishnah? The valai from the Mishnah could be the way people speak. So ein achinami, had he said ani, he'd be mechayev in everything. Sai the naziris and sai paying for somebody else. Your diak from the Mishnah is, so what did he gain by saying valai? If ani could do the job on the whole thing, what did the valai accomplish? That's the way people speak. They talk that way. And now I'll bring you a raya that people talk that way. The Eloi Mahachi, that people don't talk that way, and Olai is not adding anything. Olai is not adding anything because Ani itself would do the job to Mechayev both Naziris and Tiglachas. The next Mishnah, Hachitan the Sefer, tomorrow's Daf. Harei Olai Legaleach Chatzi Nazir. It's upon me to go ahead and provide for half a Nazir's Karbanis. V'shama Chaveru v'Omar v'Ani Olai Legaleach Chatzi Nazir. Hasam mi Ika Tartin Mili. Over there is a guy. He said, Ani, he said, Arei alai l'galei chatzi nazir. And this guy says, Arei alai. There's no two things over there. Elamai ka'amar alai, b'hamilsa. In this matter, he said, alai. Hachanami ki ka'amar alai, b'hamilsa. So he did, alai is not adding anything, Ani would have done the job. Okay. Amalei Rava retorted to Rav Huna, B'rei Yeshua, Hachi hashta. 1 second. Iyamit b'shleima, reisha tzricha. The reisha, you need the alai to go ahead and make you chayev in being a karbanis for another nazir. Seifa light tzricha. Then the seifa you're telling me a chiddush that light tzricha, that you don't have to. In other words, you only have to bring a half. So tani seifa light tzricha mishum reisha the tzricha. So the seifa would be learned light tzricha because the reisha learns tzricha, and it would be necessary to tell me light tzricha. Eliyam reisha light tzricha. If you can tell me the reisha, the alai does not do anything. Seifa leitzricha, tani reisha leitzricha, but tani seifa leitzricha. We know the Mishnayos, we always speak in very derech ktsara, right, guys? We always speak in a very concise manner. Rabbi wrote the Mishnah very concise, which leads us to go ahead and have a lot of issues, right? It's hard, right? It's hard. Bishlem, if you tell me the reisha when he said ani only goes on part, and va'an alai goes ahead and adds something. So therefore, the seifa, you have to tell me the alai in the seifa, it's nothing. But if you're going to tell me the ani accomplishes everything, if the guy says ani, he be a nazir, and in fact, what would be mechayev minkum to somebody else, and therefore the alai is leit tzricha, not necessary. Why would you have to tell me the same thing in the seifa leit tzricha? So it must be that the reisha is a tzricha, that the alai does accomplish what it accomplishes. So we can be paisha the shaila. If one person says, Ani, it's upon me to be a nazir. I'm a nazir, and provide karbanos for somebody else. And another person comes along and says, Ani, v'alai, says the Mishnah. The second guy is b'chayev like the first guy. If the second guy says v'ani, he'd only be b'chayev in one. And which one? The first one. He'd be a nazir, but he would not be required to bring for somebody else. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos. Thank you for listening.